Roll call, please.
That's you, Laura.
Oh, okay,
And you can just go by last name.
okay. Chairman Chisholm.
Chisholm.
Oh, okay, this is gonna be rough.
No worries. Present.
Okay. Vice Chair Faison.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Kane.
She just left.
Just left. Okay. Yep, that's right. Lynette. I'm learning everyone's names. Commissioner Daniels.
Present.
Present. Mayor.
Absent.
Absent. Commissioner Davis.
Present.
Okay. Hi. Nice to meet you. Commissioner Willis.
He has an excused absence. He emailed me or called me yesterday.
Okay. And then Commissioner Ratliff.
Is no longer on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll take
Okay,
it
we'll
off.
take that off. All right. My computer just froze.
So we have a quorum.
We have a
We
quorum.
have a quorum.
Thank you. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda?
Yes.
Yes. Alrighty, are there any changes or recommendations? I have two that would basically go under discussion. I'm sorry, well, one, because we just talked about Commissioner Ratliff resigning, but the second one is hybrid meetings. Allowing, because I do have people from the public that ask me, I don't know if they ever ask you all, about being able to tap in and just watch on Zoom. Tonight, that capability is possible. Troy actually has a Zoom link up for us because he just asked me about it. And nobody's necessarily watching it at the time, but is that something you all would like to discuss?
I don't think it's inappropriate.
Okay. All right, so I just want to add that discussion under miscellaneous, that's all.
All right. Okay.
Alrighty, the floor is open for a motion to adopt the agenda with the added item under miscellaneous.
I make the motion to adopt the agenda with the added items.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We're down to item number 3, adoption of minutes. Adoption of February 14th, 2022 minutes with the, call that back out to me again, Jamie, when I know I mentioned to you about the minutes being recorded that Ratliff was absent when it should have just been a vacant seat. Or
Correct.
not listed at all. So will we take that off the minutes or?
Yes,
Okay.
we will just eliminate him from the minutes from the previous meeting because he's not absent, he's just not there.
Right. Are there any further additions or corrections to the minutes?
Yes, Willis was not here at that meeting. And Commissioner Faison voted no on one of these. Forget which one it was.
It was the rezoning request.
Okay, so we're,
Yeah, that one.
Can you say that again?
So, to amend the minutes, we need to show that,
Commissioner Willis was
Yep.
not at the meeting on February 14th.
yep, Commissioner Willis was absent, and Commissioner Faison's vote on the rezoning was a nay and not a yay.
Okay.
Thank you.
alrighty, so if there's no further amendments to the minutes, the floor is open for a motion to adopt the minutes with the amendments.
I move that we adopt the minutes with just the stated changes.
I second.
Been properly moved and supported. Is there further discussion?
I just have a quick question.
Go right
We
ahead.
had some highlighted items. Do we need to do anything with those, or are they okay?
The highlighted items were for you to confirm that those were the actual people in those positions that I've noted them. So if one of you or a couple of you could confirm that, that'd be helpful.
Actually, we discussed it before the meeting, and neither one of our notes can confirm that the vote happened, or that the people that moved and supported did so, but we know that everyone voted in favor of those items.
Okay.
Oh, but yeah, I can confirm that every nomination that was made is actually true.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, Wimberly, nominated favoritism. So all of those are actually true.
Okay,
All of the nominations are correct.
got it.
Is there any further discussion?
I thought I just saw something, hold on a second.
Is that Commissioner Williams?
In the, there's one here that says Willis, and we know Willis wasn't here. Hold on. So
Right.
Okay.
Probably was me.
Williams.
In the old business,
Who did? I missed the agenda.
Oh,
Old business?
in old business, it said, second by Willis.
Williams.
So
Okay.
that's gotta be wrong, because he wasn't here.
Should have probably been Williams, huh?
So I have to assume it would have to be me.
Exactly.
I'm the only other W here.
Can you point out where that is?
Yeah, let me,
We have one more amendment to the minutes.
So actually, I'm sorry, am I out of? can I
No,
say?
you're good.
So actually, I think if we actually go through them, because they marked him, once they marked him as absent, anywhere you see his name, you know that he couldn't have voted because he
Right.
was not here.
Yeah, so once,
Right,
so that
once
change will be
That change will
pervasive.
be, exactly.
Yep, we'll
Because
carry
they
it
have
through.
him yay for everyone.
Right.
And Williams is already added, so we don't, it's not like they missed, like they exchanged one for the other. She's still here. You know, it's saying Commissioner Williams, yay.
Yep,
So, once we mark him as absent, it'll take care of the rest of it.
correct.
right, but then we do need to change where it was second. I'm trying to find where it's at.
It
Oh, that's
was
what
the
you're
adoption
saying.
of the
Okay.
agenda.
Well, I'm looking at one right now under old business, item A,
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at.
moved by
Old
Willis,
business.
seconded by Willis, to
Yeah.
table the special land use and site plan.
Where's that at?
That would be under old business in the minutes. It's page 2, item A.
I'm looking at it. Oh, yeah, yeah. Moved by Wimberly, seconded by Willis. That was seconded by you.
Yes, it should be Williams,
Yeah,
yeah.
it should Williams, not Willis, so that has to be corrected.
Yeah, you can blame that on my chicken scratch.
No worries.
Okay.
I think that's the only other thing that caught my eye.
Did you also get, who seconded the vote for the adoption of the agenda?
Was that I thought that was the first one that was brought up.
Was it?
I'm not sure. If not, let's go ahead and make note of that.
What you all said was you weren't able to confirm who it was, but it was a unanimous vote. So I can either take off the motion and second, and just leave it as a unanimous vote.
That's what I was thinking too, because I know a lot of times different commissions, we write down the name of who motion, who seconded, but long as it's motion, the seconded by it doesn't necessarily have to be recorded in that capacity.
Okay. So do you understand that? So for the adoption of the agenda, we're taking off the motion second, but leaving the unanimous vote to approve. There you go.
Oh, the hookah lounge vote for old business, maybe you got that already.
What item is that?
It's, old business,
Yeah, item A?
item A, you got that one already?
That's the one we were
That's the
just
one we-
discussing.
that's
Okay.
Just did.
All right,
That's the one we just talked about.
Other than that, I didn't see anything else.
okay. Yeah, I don't see anything else either.
Alrighty, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We're down to, we don't have any public hearings tonight, so we are down to old business. Item A, case numbers 21-17, special land use, and 2116 site plan for a proposed hookah lounge. Review and consideration of tabled approval of a special land use and site plan for a proposed hookah lounge in the B2 Thoroughfare Mixed Use District at 364 Inkster Road. Ahmad Yusuf is the applicant. Mr. Gorenflaw.
So if you'll recall, at the last Planning Commission meeting, we had not received any updates or any revised plans from the applicant, and the Planning Commission had chosen to extend their application for an additional 30 days. We had discussed if we hadn't heard from them within that time period, that we would either vote to approve it, or not approve it, but to either extend it or to deny it and just move on with things. I did reach out to the applicant last week, actually, week before that, and told them that if I didn't hear from them by the end of the day on Tuesday of last week, that it would be moving forward and that it would most likely be denied. So I did hear back from the applicant. They sent me revised site plans on Tuesday, but it was after hours, so I didn't get a chance to look at them until Wednesday morning. The most significant change to the proposal that they're extending is, so now in addition to the hookah lounge, they are proposing a carry-out restaurant as part of that use in that building on that site as well. While the hookah lounge is a special land use, a carry-out restaurant would not be considered a special land use in that location. But I did want to bring that back before the Planning Commission to get some direction from you as to how you'd like to proceed with this particular application. My recommendation is that they have provided additional information, because we're now looking at two uses on that site instead of a single use. I need to get the city engineer involved with regard to the condition of the parking lot, the utilities, the grading, the site lighting, site conditions, all of that sort of stuff. There's still a significant amount of information that's still missing with regard to the site plan. And I need to talk further with the applicant about the circulation for the proposed carry-out restaurant, because the plans that they submitted actually show the exit for the takeout restaurant exiting onto the property next door, which is obviously not going to be allowed. So we need to figure out where they would come and go from this restaurant and so on and so forth. The thing that I would suggest is that there's a possibility that for patrons of the hookah lounge, they may be encouraged to go to the carry-out restaurant in the same building, get some food, and bring it into the hookah lounge. This has not been confirmed or denied by the applicant yet, since I haven't had a chance to talk with them specifically about that, and maybe he can address that to the Planning Commission tonight. But now we're looking at something that's two uses in that same building, and whether or not the Planning Commission would like to provide the applicant some more time for us to iron out some details, but they are at least making progress at this point. And they have provided me with additional information that we just need to review.
Okay. At this time, would you like to have the applicant approach and state your name for the record, please?
Yes, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, before I don't need to do restaurant. You remember she asked me, I remember everything last time. She asked me if you want to do the food. I said, no food, just the hookah lounge. But you guys, you don't like the blueprint last time. You said, do we not need this? You need a new one. So after that, because you have restaurant before, and all the equipment inside is brand new, never been used. So I rent just half the place to the hookah lounge. I don't need the restaurant, it's storage. So what I do, the blueprint, the new blueprint I do it, I make it a restaurant because all the equipment up to code from the health department. Everything is up to code, so it's ready to open. The first. Second one, if you're talking about the parking, because I got the building next to me, you know, the next whatever hookah lounge, she told me can use my parking and like almost 60 cars. And she said, can use it, I have no problems with that. If you're talking about the room, whatever customers come and pick up the food or something, the behind the restaurant, you have the property, it's mine. All the property is mine, it's empty. There's nothing there. I can use it for anything. I have a huge parking there. And it's normal. All the hookah lounge, you want to have carry out food. I know I try to make the address like AUB, you know? Yes, I want to do it.
Okay, I think what Mr. Garnflow was just saying that he needed to just further discuss with you so they could get everything in order. That's all.
Yep.
And then we just had you approach, so if anybody has any questions at this
Yes,
time,
yes.
they can ask them.
Okay.
Commissioners?
And I do.
Yes.
So in regards to the restaurant portion of it, so are you planning for it to be strictly carry-out, or are you going to have a possible dine-in element there?
No, we just carry out.
Anybody else?
So
Yeah,
people
okay.
just walk in,
Yes,
get their food,
Mm.
and walk out.
yeah, same like the drive-through, whatever, just pick up the food.
And can you just go over that again, why you decided to do that? Why did you change that?
I like that. Because we already have the hood, and we have all the equipment inside up to code, and I rent to have 100% the state did not give me proof for the hookah lounge if I have all the equipment inside. I have to move everything. This cost almost be like $160,000.
So since it's already there,
Yeah, it's restaurant before, yeah.
right, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that. And
Yes.
that's why I was asking the question I asked
Yes,
last
yes,
time.
yes.
So you're saying it's more cost effective to
Uh-huh.
leave it there?
Uh-huh.
And since it's there
Yes.
already,
Yes.
why not
Yeah.
use it?
Oh.
Is
I
that what
already,
you're saying?
I already rent the whole place. I already take everything, you know what I'm saying?
So it's gonna be,
Plus up to code.
instead of all of it being the whole hookah,
That's we have in the plan right now.
right, you're just gonna cut it in half?
It's already have half wall. I just, finished the wall. There's a little couple feet.
So we're going to go Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Davis.
Okay, so I'm going to go back. So if it is more conducive to plausibly make it a carryout, then what's the difference if you have it as a dine-in?
I don't have room for the dining.
Okay, okay,
So you don't have. a
Yeah,
table
I have
and
just
chairs
little,
and
I make a like waiter room. Yes.
okay, okay.
Commissioner Davis.
All right, in the committee, it's been talked about the doors going in. You have one entrance going in for the hookah lounge, and one entrance is going for the carryout. So where that entrance come for the carryout, you saying going on the south side of the building, that don't look feasible.
Okay.
Where you should have, I'm not, the original doors there for your carryout. And the original door is there where you go in and out at. So why would have the carryout door going on the south side of the building?
Okay.
Instead of you having a hookah lounge door coming in through the back and your carryout to the side.
This building, you have 5 doors. Two, you have one side door, and you have one door right here, and you have door right here, and you have restaurant, you have 2 doors. The restaurant only, you have 2 doors. And the whole hookah lounge, you have 3 doors. Like, door like this, double, and you have one single in the behind the building. So you have a lot of doors you can use it, plus emergency door, plus, all the stuff we do.
You all set? Commissioner Williams.
So I think, I just want to make sure I understood his question. So your question was it relating to the actual door to the entry of the building? Or was it relating to the coming in of the cars to the building?
When you said the carryout would be on the south side of the building.
So you're
That's
talking about people
adjoining
have to-
to the
once they get in
building
there.
next door.
Yeah,
Here, let me
The building next door is already mine. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
let me provide some clarification.
Okay, please.
So currently, right now, you have a rectangular building,
Okay.
and the long direction is east-west, okay? So the main building, or the main doors into the hookah lounge are on the north side of the building, okay? The drawings that we just received show the entrance to the carryout restaurant on the west side of the building, which is the short side, but it's the opposite side from the street. So it would be like on the back side,
Okay.
okay? And then there's another door that exits to the south, which would be opposite the main doors into the hookah lounge, but the carryout restaurant is shown to exit to the south. But because that building is right up against the property line, you would be exiting out onto the adjacent property. So the applicant and I can talk about adjacent parking agreements, use of off-site parking, all of that sort of stuff. I just want the planning commission to understand that he's talking about 2 things. One is a hookah lounge, one is a carryout restaurant, and the access, the main entrance for the carryout is on the back side of the building, or the west side.
Okay.
And the exit currently as shown, which I think we're going to try and revise, is to the south. I may suggest that they exit and enter from the same door on the west side of the building.
So you've actually, and this is going to my question now, you have actually seen the revised site plan?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And that wasn't able to get provided to us today?
No, because I still need to have the city engineer look at the whole site plan and to move things forward. So by the next planning commission meeting, I'm hoping that we can work with the applicant, we can get some additional information on the revised plans, and I can get some feedback from the city engineer.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. So, do the plans read as if it's two different businesses operating at the same time? They're two different, they're being operated by two different sets of management?
I'm not privy to the organization of the businesses, but the carryout restaurant is physically separated from the hookah lounge
By wall.
by walls.
Okay, so did you ask the question to the operator? Are you gonna operate this as two separate
Yeah,
businesses?
separate heat, separate everything.
Okay.
I
And
have
so two business licenses, et cetera, et cetera?
Correct,
Am I
yes.
understanding that's gonna be?
Hours of operation and stuff like that?
That's, we have it here, everything we have here.
Is that what-
Yeah, that answers my question.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion?
So we're not voting on this particular, what we're actually talking about.
No, so the,
I think we're voting to extend them another 30
Really, we
days.
just want to extend them 30 days to
Yes.
actually give us what we're talking about.
yes, that would be the appropriate motion if you're
Okay.
inclined to do so.
Okay.
So the floor is open for a motion.
I motion to extend the, proposed Hoka line with the necessary adjustments that need to be made.
Is there
For the
support?
next 30 days, for 30 additional days.
Is there support?
Support
It's been properly moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
Will be here.
with,
I just want to make sure everybody was clear on the motion, that's all.
okay, she said the motion to put the, but you said hookah lounge, so it's gotta be with the restaurant added.
Right,
Well, that's what I said they-
what I was saying. I think she needed to.
Well, no, I said with the, with the additional adjustments that are being made. So that's an additional adjustment being made.
Yeah.
You can give input if you want the motion changed at this time. If you think it should be reworded a different
I
way.
think it should be reworded because I think it's more than an adjustment.
You are able to propose it right now.
It's absolutely more than an adjustment. So it should be.
So, okay, so you can amend it now.
You can make this,
You can amend it and I'll say. You can amend it
But
and
I know,
I
I
can
just know it's more than an adjustment. Okay, so let's think about this. So I move that we extend the applicant 30 days with the addition requesting of the restaurant to be added to the hookah lounge.
And to provide additional information as required in the site plan reviews.
is there support?
I support.
All right.
That's not completely
The
separate.
amendment on the floor has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're down to item D under old business, annual planning report discussion.
Yes.
Continue discussion and provide city council recommendation of 2021 annual planning report and 2022 work plan. See attached 2022 worksheet. Mr. Gornfall.
Subsequent to the last planning commission meeting where the annual report was presented, Commissioner, Vice Chair, Faison, subsequently sent out a additional email that I'm not sure everybody got, but it was asking for some clarification about some of the things that we have presented, but it also is suggesting that maybe there were some other items that we might want to consider adding to the annual report moving forward. Some of those things and discussions could involve a comprehensive development plan, a 5-year capital agenda, capital budget, review of the community development or redevelopment projects which affect real property, and/or the public interest in maintaining the city's social, economic, and physical development, and in particular, inclusion per the RRC designation, and which of those items that she was discussing might be pertinent to add, and whether or not those were really appropriate to go into the annual plan and report, or whether they should be part of the RRC certification process. So the items, we've sort of modified the language that Vice Chair Faison had presented, putting her request or items into the vernacular of the RRC certification process. And so the worksheet that we've put together is actually a list of things and suggestions and/or recommendations of items that we would like to get a recommendation from the Planning Commission to send to council to authorize payment and funding for, so that we can move the RRC certification process forward. So that's sort of a nutshell discussion about those items for item B. And we have this item again a little farther down on the agenda, which Mara will be going through each of the items on the worksheet for you. So at this time, did you have any questions on that particular item of discussion?
Anybody?
I do.
At this time?
So this is, I've been here for 4 years, and this will be my first time seeing us lay something this ambitious forward. And also with dollar figures that we don't control.
That's right.
So can you speak to the implication of us putting something forward that would still require, I guess it's more like this is what we recommend to council, but recognizing that we don't have any control over how they, choose to receive it, so.
That's absolutely correct. As a planning commission, you are making recommendations to the council because they are the ones in charge of allocating funds, authorizing distribution of funds, and so on and so forth. The planning commission doesn't have any authority with that regard, but those are things that, and if the mayor were here, he'd be able to speak to this. A couple weeks ago, we had a meeting with myself, SAFE, the mayor, and Elizabeth King from RRC, and she walked us through all of the things that we had and all of the things we didn't have. And the mayor, at the end of that meeting, was very motivated to push things forward. And in order for us to do that, there's several things that need to be accomplished for us to be able to either receive our essential certification or our full certification for RRC designation. So what the worksheet does is it outlines those items that are still deficient that need to be worked on, that we are recommending from an RRC perspective, you should engage into initiate these projects, and it would be your recommendation then to City Council that they approve the funding to do so.
Which can happen over a period of time.
It doesn't have to be all at once. It can be baby steps. It can be, this step and this step, but hold off on these other ones. City Council can do whatever they want to with it, but if you send them a slate of things that say, these are the items that we need to get in order to achieve our certification for RRC readiness, we can do it quick or we can do it slow, however you want to do it, but these are the things that we need to have you approve so that you can have people like ourselves putting those documents together for your approval.
And I guess us submitting the plan doesn't mean that we're asking today that City Council is making any decisions about the content. It's just that we're delivering something that we owe them, and this is our public record of this is the vision that we're trying to carry forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And in my discussions with the mayor, and I realize this is secondhand, hearsay, but he did indicate to me that he was on board to move as much of this stuff forward as is financially feasible from the council level.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Williams.
And so in regards to the plan, is there like I see you have the time factor here, the planning staff and what's your recommendation, but do you have, in an order that would be more conducive to follow to get to that certification?
I am going to leave that to Mara to describe in the next line item. But yes, there would be, we could, and it's also up to the planning commission as to, because there's at least two of you that have been to the RRC training before. And so you know the order of priorities and what's most important, what's not most important, what can be held off, what's going to earn you the most points, so on and so forth. So between yourself and planning staff, we can develop a list of priorities that are, 1, 2, 3, these are most important to move forward, or these are going to take the longest time to prepare and are the biggest expenses. However you want to do it, but it's a conversation, and it's ultimately just a recommendation that you're sending to council.
And just for colleagues, and I've had a chance to talk to our RRC planner multiple times, and it's my understanding that one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is also to have her present. So we have her as a resource, like being that we are an RRC community, they provide us technical assistance. So all the decisions don't have to be made today. We can spread this out over a period of time, because it takes municipalities time to work through these kinds of things. This is very ambitious. So it could take us some time to work through this. So I think it's okay if we don't have all the answers, so long as we put a plan together for what things we want to achieve over the course of a year, or longer.
And just so that you're aware, both Mara and I are very comfortable with and recognize that it is an ambitious exercise, but we're very confident in our abilities to help the Planning Commission and the city move forward with those preparations and obtaining the certifications and stuff. And we feel confident that it will be one of the items in the best interest of the mayor's initiatives and the city's initiatives to bring more business to the city of Inkster, get more businesses open, make the processes easier for the general public to understand, all of those sorts of things. And so it's something that needs to happen, and it's just kind of a decision as to, how quickly it all can happen and who's paying for it.
Okay.
Alrighty, if there's nothing else, we can go right ahead into new business. Is there anything else? Alrighty. We are down to new business. Item A. Case numbers 20-29, 20-30, 20-31, 20-32 special land uses, and 20-33 site plan. Proposed multi-use marijuana facility. Approve or deny requests to extend preliminary site plan and special land use approvals for 6 months for the multi-process marijuana facility at 26277 Trowbridge. Linda and Wasim Beydoun are the applicants. Mr. Gorenflo.
So, as many of you are already aware, there has been a city-owned property that was purchased by an original group of applicants back in 2017 or 2018 when the process was initiated for a multi-purpose marijuana facility on the site, which happens to be immediately adjacent here to City Hall. Those original approvals were granted back in 2018, but had subsequently expired under the old ownership. The current and new owners of the project were able to secure their approvals as outlined in those cases that the chairman alliterated, and those approvals were granted back in April of 2021. So site plan approvals, special land use approvals are good for 365 days. Their approvals would expire on April 6th if no action were taken. The applicant has asked that we provide them 6 additional months to finalize their final site plans because they still have preliminary site plan approval and conditional land use approval for the facility. To give them 6 months additional time to prepare the necessary documents for final site plan, which would be reviewed administratively by planning and by the city engineering staff. I will tell you that they have been diligent in their pursuit of conferring with the planning department and the engineering staff. They've tried to work through some hiccups that came along the way, some discussion about an easement that occupies part of the property that's a city-owned street right away. And there was discussion as to whether or not that needed to be vacated in order for them to construct their detention facility as it's currently proposed. The engineer has come back and said that it does not, which will simplify the process altogether. But through this whole process, they had explored potentially making the facility larger or planning for a larger facility and creating more parking and a larger detention pond. And we've sort of been back and forth on all of this. They've realized that they need to settle on what the original plans that were approved and move those through the final site plan approval process. So all they're asking for is that additional time to seek those approvals and get those plans prepared. Planning Commission is planning staff is in support of their request, and I've also spoken with the mayor about this, and he is also in support of their request to extend for 6 months. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioners, do you have any questions about the extension request? Hearing none, the floor is open for a motion to approve or deny.
Make a motion to approve the extended time for the special land use, approved for 6 months for the multipurpose marijuana facility on Trowbridge.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Is there further discussion?
So who supported? Okay,
Williams.
thanks, Williams.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Excellent, thank you so much.
No problem, thank you. We are down to item B, extend invitation. Invite redevelopment ready community certification planner Elizabeth King to future planning commission meeting. Consider inviting zoning board of appeals and downtown development authority to this meeting.
I'm going to turn that over to Mara, and she will discuss this with you if you have any questions.
Do we have the worksheet up here?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So to move up and down on the worksheet, just scroll up and down with the mouse.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, back to the agenda. Well, first of all, thanks for having me today. It's good to meet you. I'm Mara Bartoszewski. A little bit about me. I studied urban planning. I have my master's degree in urban planning at UCLA, and just moved here. Was working with the city of Hamtramck for a little over a year and a half, and attended the redevelopment ready certification class with 2 of your planning commission members. And looking forward to now working with McKenna and assisting multiple cities perform their planning and zoning and development needs, and making sure that we're sharing best practices and engaging in friendly development and business, plans, tasks, anything. Yeah, so thank you for having me today, and thank you. Nice to meet you. Thanks, Jamie. So then the next item on our agenda is, as discussed, inviting our RRC planner, Elizabeth King, to a future meeting and having the opportunity to have a joint meeting, which is also, as we know, some of us know, a good practice from the redevelopment ready Communities Certification Program. So a little bit about redevelopment ready communities is that these are a collection of best practices. I'm not sure, how familiar is the Planning Commission with redevelopment ready?
Everybody's at different levels.
Okay, different levels. Okay, cool. So the thing that I enjoy most about Redevelopment Ready is that it is a program based off all of the best practices from all of the cities around Michigan. So really, a city never has to start over new. We can always start with the best practice that has been tried and shared and proven true throughout this program, the Redevelopment Ready Certification Community Program. So the goal of this agenda item is to bring in our planner and ask her to speak about the City of Inkster's work plan, and also invite the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Downtown Development Authority Board to this meeting so that we can all get on the same page and figure out what we can do to support business and development in the City of Inkster.
So at this time, we just need to solidify a date.
Correct.
Okay.
So at this time, we'd just be looking for direction from the Planning Commission to authorize us to try and arrange that meeting and work out a schedule for a time and a place and all of that stuff. But we're looking for authorization and direction from the Planning Commission.
The floor is open for a motion to authorize planning staff to invite all of the named parties.
I'll make a motion to extend an invitation to our RRC planner and coordinate on our behalf for the date. And then after that's selected, I'm presuming the invitations would go out to the said bodies from there. Okay.
Support?
Who supported? Okay, so moved by Commissioner Faison, supported by Commissioner Daniels. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We're down to item C, review redevelopment ready community RRC certification program. Consider creating a 2022 RRC work plan. See 2022 worksheet. Mara, you're on.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm really excited about this work plan because I read through the annual report, and I'm like looking through other communities. I really appreciate Jamie adding on how much he estimates the cost for each project to be, because I feel like that is going to help cities just take action even more.
Or
So
not?
what'd you say?
Or not?
I mean, or like use our ARPA money, or like find other grant money for these items. Come on, we got this. So I appreciate that about Jamie, because other cities I recognize don't do that. Other cities that McKenna represents don't have that actionable item. So we decided to create a worksheet to pair with the plan so that we can get even more ready to take action. The worksheet, as we already described, talks about the city's planning and development needs. And we'll go into, I'll scroll down. Maybe some of you have not been able to look at the worksheet yet. So there's two different components to it. One table right here has the annual report items that we reviewed over the last meeting and a little bit earlier today. And then down here, we have the redevelopment ready items that the City of Inkster still needs to perform to reach redevelopment certification. And just so you know, there's different levels of knowledge about redevelopment ready. So there's two different tiers to the redevelopment ready program. The first tier is to get an essential certification, and that's like very obtainable for the City of Inkster. And so that's what we have written here, is to get an essential certification. It's the first step. And then the second step is to prove that we're a master, and I think that's called like actual certification. I'm not sure what the second tier is. But the first tier is essential certification, and we can do this. There's a lot of easy items that I've defined on here, and I have some experience working with redevelopment ready with the City of Hamtramck and also with the City of East Point, and navigating the Trello board, which seems foreign maybe to some of you, but it's what MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, uses to organize its programs around the state of Michigan. So the whole, all of these work plan items within the worksheet are oriented around how we can make the city of Inkster more business-friendly and improve processes, which are all items that the Redevelopment Ready Communities Certification Program also join with similar goals. So the annual planning report and the redevelopment ready items are synonymous because we're both trying to process, improve, and make business friendly in the city of Inkster. And I could talk to you a little bit about the tables, a little bit more, just a brief overview. I don't want to go in.
Go ahead, finish.
Okay, I don't want to go into too much detail about the redevelopment ready communities because we are expecting to hear from our RRC planner, who's the expert of this program, but I can touch loosely on the items that we have listed in our worksheet today.
So I'm going to jump in just real quick. So some of these items, especially on the first page of the worksheet, are items that you already saw on the annual plan and projected work plan for 2022. Some of these items are already in process. For instance, the marijuana revisions to the marijuana ordinance, those are already in process. We're already drafting new revisions as we speak. Same thing holds true for the smoking lounges ordinance that the Planning Commission had requested that we take a look at and anticipate anticipate developing to encourage new development of that type of business within the city limits. The options for the master plan, there's sort of two tiers, and then there's a hybrid between the two. The first one is a review and affirmation of the plan, which is a simple task for us to go through, make sure things are consistent, make sure the Planning Commission is happy with the items in the current master plan, and then the Planning Commission affirms that this plan still holds true, and it's sort of like a new published date, if you will. The second option is a 5-year review and a full plan update that coordinates efforts between the master plan and revisions to the ordinance as well. It's a much more extensive, comprehensive approach to things. And at this point, we don't really have a recommendation one way or the other. It's kind of up to the Planning Commission as to how they feel about the master plan and whether or not they think there's major things that need to be revised or looked at, or if there's things that we can continue as is and move forward. Yes, Commissioner.
Question, so when was the last master plan done for planning?
2016 or 17?
17.
Yes,
So it's time.
correct.
It's time to review it, but I don't know if we know, as a body, we don't look at it probably as much as we should. So it might take us some time to decide how much we've achieved from it already, and how much more we would want to build on it.
And that's usually what happens is, for some of these items, there's a discussion amongst the planning commissioners. You figure out what avenue you'd like to take, and then you make a recommendation to the council as to what sort of expenditure that you're looking for. But zoning ordinance amendments, master plan, parks and recreation plan are all essential components and necessary to achieve your redevelopment ready communities certification. Sorry, I've been practicing out in the country far too long. And the reason that the Parks and Recreation Plan is on here was at the mayor's request. He identified the fact that the last time it was done was a long time ago, and that he would really like to see something move forward and updating the Parks and Recreation Plan. So that's why that's on here. And then as far as the application processes, we're looking at streamlining several of the processes that are already happening within the planning department. We're looking at acquiring some new software, especially from the BS&A suite, which would allow not only the planning department, but planning, building, clerk, and assessor's office to all operate and store information and share information on the same suite of software. And depending on the level of information that you all are willing to share with the community, we can also face it forward to the public and make certain aspects of it accessible to the general public as well, so that they can look at things like the master plan, they can look at things like zoning designation, they can look at taxable value, they can look at a lot of different, they can do things like schedule permits or inspection requests, and they can make applications to the building department. So the BSNA software, we've got buy-in from all of the departments so far. It's just kind of moving it forward, but it will be a great tool that will help the city tremendously in their operations.
And I've seen that with, Van Buren Township has integrated it like that, and so has Belleville. That definitely would be, something definitely worth looking at, because it has a lot, I mean, even had a site plan for one of the new developments actually on the city's website.
Right.
It actually had the master plan of a house.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, right on the site, yeah.
And then the last thing that we're looking at doing is, and this also is a multi-department exercise, is digitizing records.
Yes.
Oh, we know
My
we
God.
I don't need to say anymore, you all understand. So we're working on getting quotes together to have that done. So that'll be forthcoming in the future. But I just wanted to go through those particular items on the front side, and then Mark can go on with the redevelopment stuff.
Okay, thanks,
Did
Jamie.
you have any questions? Okay, great.
So, yeah, there's some great tasks on here, and you're gonna find a lot of similar items in the redevelopment ready work plan, because like I said, I mentioned that these are both, they're synonymous, and yeah, I can scroll down, I was just gonna,
Keep going.
okay, talk one more thing. But Kimberly, council member, or no, sorry, Commissioner Faison, you bring up a good point, or Vice Chair Faison, about having to reflect on our master plan, and we haven't really done that yet. So where are we in this process, and how do we move forward? Because we do know that it's out of date. So I think that would be a good question, like questions like that, to ask and address Elizabeth, to understand how other communities are working with these same concerns. I know that this isn't the only community that shares these concerns. From my other background within the city of Hamtramck, we also share some similar concerns about that. She might have some good ideas for us. So, oh, thanks, Jamie. Okay, I don't want to get too much into detail, but we discussed that we might need some plans in the annual report. So plans are actually needed, and updates of plans are needed to achieve the redevelopment ready essential certification. So these are some update to the master plan, or having an active master plan, public participation plan, capital improvement plan, and I'll let Elizabeth talk to you a little bit more, but I can try to answer individual questions. I'll just give you a cursory overview. The work plan items needed under the category zoning ordinance are like making the zoning ordinance more user-friendly, adding more visuals or graphics, figuring out, excuse me, how we can have a difference in housing structures or difference in housing typologies.
Yes, and that's a good one there, because I do have business applicants ask a lot, and residents as well, about can this business go there, why or why not. And when you're looking for a map to send to them, a lot of times because we're up here and we might have taken a training or we've discussed it ad nauseum, they're still not able to comprehend it. And then the same thing with the housing diversity. Mayor Pro Tem Howard had asked me one time about when you look at Dearborn and Dearborn Heights, how they have mansions in the middle of this neighborhood. And she was saying, how did they do that? What's the process? And I said, well, it's all in their zoning and what they have versus what we may or may not have.
Right.
And it takes time for one to look over that stuff and understand it and try to inwardly digest it. So that's good. Glad that's in there.
Yeah, and that's so it's under zoning ordinance, and I'm sorry, I just got like something in my throat, but it's a good point. Like multiple cities have outdated zoning ordinances, and I mean by that, their zoning ordinances are not matching up with their master plan ambitions, and they recognize that they don't have like the different housing typologies. I was like mansions, I guess, if we want mansions in the middle of a block, or allowing for more differentiation and density. So cities are engaging in zoning ordinance rewrites. I know from the city of East Point's perspective, they're engaging in a zoning ordinance rewrite, and McKenna recommends about, I think it's 8 months to perform the zoning ordinance rewrite. So McKenna's got experience in rewriting zoning ordinances, and if you have a particular, the planning commission McKenna will work with you to understand what kind of housing you want to see in Inkster, what kind of businesses you want to see in Inkster, and make sure that's reflected in the zoning ordinance, not just the master plan, but the zoning ordinance. So we can continue that conversation for sure. It's a good point. Then other elements are development review, so making the development and business procedures friendly in Inkster, or just elevating that process even more so. Some of these items are just putting relevant information on the website and understanding how applicants can pay for site plan reviews. So some of these items we've already worked on, we're working on, they're in the process of just adding the master plan or the zoning ordinance to the website. So we've already started doing this, so we can see a lot of these items crossed off quite soon. But these are just like categories as easy. And another good category under here that I think it's good to highlight for this meeting is boards and commissions. So we need an orientation packet for all ZBA members, but also planning commissioners and DDA members when they come in, and to understand what to expect, how the rules of procedure are, what's everyone's names, when do we meet, that sort of thing. It's something that I think when we have limited staff and limited resources, we can ask boards and commissions themselves to create these welcome packets for their board and create their own bylaws and create training strategies or whatever trainings you might want to attend. And that's all with assistance with us too. We can share our best practices, and also with Elizabeth King, who is there to help correspond with all the cities to make sure that they're on the right track to becoming redevelopment ready.
May I just add something? Because I don't want to take for granted that everyone, I don't know who knows or who doesn't know that we already, it looks like in maybe 2017 is when we started a process, and I think it became finalized in 2018. We signed an MOA with the state, or MOU, to enter into this program. So this isn't a new thing. It's almost like a renewed thing that started some years ago, and just needs to be picked back up and revived, so to speak. So I just thought, I don't know who knows what, so figured it was worth sharing that.
So with the meeting that I had with the mayor and SAFE and Elizabeth previously, the mayor was under the misunderstanding that we were really close to having our certification and our essentials certification. And unfortunately, Elizabeth was able to explain that, no, we're not anywhere close. We did have our baseline report done. It was established. Some projects and programs got initiated, but didn't really go very far, and it sort of went by the wayside, especially with COVID, isolation and all of that stuff, and not really being able to work on it and focus on it. So she was able to indicate that as for the essentials accreditation, we're about 30% of the way there, and for the complete certification, we're about 20% of the way there. So we have a lot of work to do still, but there's a lot of items, as you can see from the worksheet, that are really simple things that we can go through, intend to go through, and be able to check off and say, these are those things. We get them to Elizabeth, and then she's able to plug them into our status and continue to move us forward towards certification. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, and I heard she mentioned it too, can you kind of go through the ones now that you think we're going to be able to check off very soon, or rather, can you go through the ones that are already in process?
So what I think I'd like to do is, I was sitting back here kind of watching what was going on, is this is a lot of information to take under advisement at this point. So what I think I'd like to do is I'd like to have you all review the items that are on this list, and we, in the meantime, will provide you an update with the items that are in process, the ones that we've already started, so on and so forth. and then come back to you with sort of an updated program to this. And then at that point, I'd like to be able to have the Planning Commission make either a recommendation to approve, to move it forward to council, or to abstain or hold off for now on any particular item that you may think is not particularly relevant or important at the moment. So, like I said, and Mara said too, she's kind of skimming over the basics here, and we're certainly happy to answer any questions that any of you might have. You know, feel free to call or email any of us. But I think at this point, the easiest thing for us to do is sort of put it on the table, let it all sit for a minute, think about it, and then we can come back to you at the next Planning Commission with an update, or next meeting with an update.
May I make a recommendation?
Yes.
Because we have a number of people that are not here, can there be a communication that goes out to let them know that we're asking them to review this and to be prepared to do
Engage.
whatever it is that we think we will need to do to advance this the next meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah?
Alrighty, is there any further questions for planning staff?
Chair, can I say something?
Absolutely.
Okay, so everything really is already organized, to be honest, in the Trello board. Do you have access to the Trello board? Okay, so Michigan Economic Development Growth Corporation uses Trello as an organizational tool to create work plans for each city. So each of these items are actually cards, like the bylaws, I guess, is one card within a list, and the card tells us how great Inkster's done on this, and then what we need to do to close some gaps. And then here's some other information of exemplary bylaws, like we were talking about the City of Westland's training program. I'm sure that's in there too. So we can show you this Trello board and maybe get some access to it. Yeah,
You
with
mean like
our
a scorecard?
What'd you say?
You like a scorecard?
So
When you say cards, you mean like a scorecard that shows you?
Yeah, kind, yeah.
it does a couple of things. It both shows you where you're at, and then provides you some direction, and then gives you some examples of some really well done examples of these things. So I didn't know what a Trello board was either until I met with
I learned too.
Elizabeth.
I've never heard of it until you just said what you
Yeah,
said.
and I was like, oh, what?
Right.
So it's a software program. And it's a way to organize things and create layers of hierarchy and sort of a workflow program and all of that sort of stuff, in a way to keep track of, who's doing what and when it's been done and how it got done, and, all of those sorts of things. So we can show you an example of that at the next meeting. And I think what I'd like to do is, after the meeting that we have the joint meeting that we have with Elizabeth, she has made the City of Inkster's Trello board that they host available to myself, to Mara, to the mayor, and to SAFE. Following our joint meeting, I'd like to make it available to whoever else on the Planning Commission, ZBA, or City Council that would like to have access to it as well. It's a really simple thing, but that way you can go in yourself and look at all of these different things. And it's very intuitive. Like I said, I had no clue as to what it was to begin with, and, I get it now, and it's a very handy tool.
You know what, when Commissioner Williams and I met with Elizabeth, she also told us, or suggested that she can also present to City Council, which seems like a really great idea. Do you know if that's gonna happen too?
Well, so I think it may have just simply been an oversight on our part in terms of not including City Council in that original list between the DDA, the ZBA, the Planning Commission, and I'd like City Council to be there as
Oh, that
well.
would be amazing.
So
Let's do it.
I'd like to try and get that as a one joint meeting, so
Yes.
that we're all on the same page and we're all hearing it from the same person at the same time, so we don't have any loss of translation.
Okay. Do you like that idea?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
I just think we just gotta make sure we got a big enough space, that's all.
Yeah, I know, I was thinking the same thing about the restrictions in the space right now.
And if,
I have to pick to the rec center.
yeah, and I was thinking about that, how they did the town hall with the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame, how they had it where people could tap in on Zoom. Not necessarily, and I'm not saying to restrict the public, and I'm not saying this is necessarily for the public, but say we do have, because we're talking about a date where we're trying to get 50 people in one room that are all officers of the city. And the dates might not line up, whereas if we have some type of hybrid capability as well, at least they'd be able to sit in on and listen to the presentation live.
And not only that though, this isn't something that requires an attendance.
If it's a meeting,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an official meeting.
Well, okay, so it's gonna be an official joint meeting
Yes,
Yes.
of all these bodies, including
the
the city council?
yes. That's the intent. And,
Okay, so then my question then, does it have to be a meeting?
or
Are
could
you
it just be?
worried
a
about the
presentation?
scheduling?
No.
Well, here,
I'm worried about the scheduling. 'Cause
Yes.
How you gonna get that? That's a lot of people to get together for one time.
well, so here's the issue, and I'll work with the mayor to work on the logistics of that. But as far as whether it's a meeting that's open to the public or not, if you have that many city officials in a room together, it automatically becomes a requirement that that meeting's open to the public.
I don't think.
Our city clerk
Yeah,
seemed
but I
to
don't
think
think
that there was, like, when you do joint meetings, that there are protocols that, because other cities do this too. I really thought there was some kind of a way that it could be done, that it wasn't necessarily the same treatment as like a council meeting
Okay.
or like a,
Well, I will get with Madam Clerk when she returns from vacation and, and coordinate that to make sure that we're all on the same page. But like I said, our intent is to have everybody that are decision makers and stakeholders within the city available, if they want to be, to attend this meeting, to have a better understanding of what the RRC process and certification actually is, and what the opportunities it is that it creates
Yeah.
for the city. And I think that's probably the most important aspect of that.
yeah.
All I was saying was just making it available to say we have some commissioners that just won't be able, and say it was many of them, to meet on that particular night, whether it's a council meeting night, whether it's a planning commission meeting night, or a zoning board of appeals meeting night. I was just saying had a Zoom option available for them to be able to watch the presentation as it streams live. In regards to the public meeting portion of it, once any one of these bodies sits down together at a meeting or a town hall and it's a quorum, it's officially open to the public. There was some confusion with our finance meeting that we had, that it was closed off. It was like, no, it cannot be closed off because the whole council is meeting to talk about city business. Now, we weren't taking no votes, but it was still public.
Got it.
So I guess that wasn't my concern about the public aspect. My concern was, does it have to be labeled as a meeting? So do you have to have so many people from each commission?
Oh, I see what
I
you're
see.
saying.
Do you have to have a
Oh, I
quorum?
see.
And the answer is no, you wouldn't have to have
Okay,
a
that's my
quorum.
question.
We're
So,
not really voting on anything.
that's,
We're
and
having-
It's a meeting, informational
that's why,
meeting.
That's right.
right, and that's
All
why.
information.
Yeah, right, and it's more information, but if that, to add that hybrid portion of it, it would allow
Those people to be present.
more participation, absolutely, okay. So that's, yeah.
Okay. Any further
Anything
discussion,
else
anybody?
you should, add?
No, I just think that the last few rows here are something, these are action items that this commission, I can really see, can take on. So, like, we will provide more of an update, for sure, but also, if you also, in your time, want to consider these last few items, I think it makes sense for planning commission to look into this a little bit.
Okay.
So one of the things that we had talked about actually before coming into the meeting, and I'm just remembering this now, is that it might make sense for some of these last items under boards and commissions, that the planning commission or the ZBA, or I'll leave them out of this process for a minute, but either city council or the planning commission maybe form a small subcommittee of 2 or 3 people that can work on either an orientation package or the bylaws or something like that, and then bring it back before the whole,
I think I just got voluntold.
yeah.
It's definitely your baby.
but
I
that's
was
not-
literally just thinking, like, we just need to get an electronic version of this, at least to this body as a start, and then go forward with how we add to it.
Sounds good. Do you all have any other questions for us?
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're down to miscellaneous. Earlier in our agenda discussion or adoption of the agenda, I talked about hybrid meetings for planning commission. Again, this is solely for those who, one, haven't been to City Hall in some time and still choose not to. I do have, it has been voiced by multiple residents. They want to start watching planning commission meetings just because a lot of times even city council members, when they hear about the decisions we've made, it's time for a vote. And they don't know everything that we've discussed and how we've gotten to that decision to approve or deny. So I just wanted to bring that up to you guys because Troy had asked tonight about that and the capabilities to stream it on Zoom and then from Zoom to YouTube or Facebook is there. The only thing I want to forewarn you guys is when you're talking about technology and all these different components that are in there, we start to lose control at certain points. When you're getting text messages during meetings or something, or say they froze, this, that, and the other, the camera went out, sometimes there's nothing we can do. Especially on Monday nights when Zoom bandwidth is really consumed by multiple municipalities that are using it just because it goes from not being used to being used.
So why don't we just stay at a Zoom?
Well, we can. So I'm just asking y'all, is that something
Oh,
you want to tap
You
into?
mean like go back to Zoom completely?
No,
No.
Oh.
We still have to-
No, I was just asking,
Talking about when you
clarifying.
offer the other people to come in, like we on Zoom right now.
Well-
So they can watch and hear whatever.
No, we're not on Zoom right now.
Yes, we are.
I mean, we're not on Facebook right
No,
now.
we're not on Facebook.
But we on
We're
Zoom
just
though.
on Zoom.
Zoom,
Right.
My,
And
my suggestion would be that we could have a hybrid meeting. Well, I understand what you're asking about, but if we want to have a larger group of people for a multi-board meeting, we might want to pick a different night, other than a Monday night to do that too.
I got you.
yeah,
Okay.
on the
And
airwaves,
can I
it's
also
clear.
give you another suggestion? Of course, Zoom is the number one Zoom is the number one teleconference type of software, but there is other software that other bodies that in the business community use that won't give you that same problem. Like for me, I use GoToMeeting
Yep.
for my corporate events. And
And there's WebEx, Cisco, and some other ones too.
I've used WebEx Cisco, and I see CNN uses that quite often. I can't remember. So one, we know it costs money. Two, I can't remember what the decision was when we went into this, why we ended up using Zoom versus WebEx, because there's been other business groups that wanted to meet virtually, with me or others, and I had to download WebEx on a different device. So I think just because we already had that license, that's why we continue to lean towards Zoom.
Yeah.
But in the future, it might be something that we look to steer away from. We would just have to talk to our media director and our IT group to see what would be easiest for them to start to begin to utilize.
Like I said, I'm not familiar with the other one, but with GoToMeeting, the pay plan is very simple. I mean, even with Zoom, the $15 a month plan will give you what you're looking for, even with the Zoom. So if you go into another plan like the GoToMeeting or even this WebEx that you're talking about, they're basic plans. When you start, at least once you leave the free portion, the basic plans are not that economically expensive that it may be worth looking at. Like this 1 week we're talking about here. The merging of all these different commissions.
Yeah.
Even if it's not even on a Monday night, but if it's on a night where you still have significant band usage, that's something to consider, to use that alternate, different type of media source to kind of drop, because you're absolutely right. Zoom gets consumed with that amount because of the municipal situation on that Monday, and then some other nights, it just depends on the night that you're really using it, but maybe it's time to, maybe like you said now, to review, since clearly hybrid is not going anywhere, that's it. It ain't even a future night, it's just it's a reality that we need to kind of, that's part of our, that should be part of our initiative, the evolution of our technology for our boards and commissions and council and mayor too, so.
Yep, absolutely.
So I guess in that, if we all are in consensus for that, just to allow the general public to be able to view remotely without having to physically be here. And even if one of us is absent, we can't necessarily vote, but at least we can listen in on a discussion or meeting if we so choose, if we're out of town or just preoccupied, whatever the occasion may be. So I guess that
We're gonna bring that up at the next meeting when we have a full
Well, we got a quorum now.
quorum.
we-
Everybody else's opinion.
we can.
I would just suggest that either the planning department can reach out to the IT team to investigate these alternative solutions for public engagement, or certainly you could reach out to them. But we can convey that information to them to investigate what other alternatives are most easily and most readily available, and then come back to the planning commission with a solution.
That's fine.
Okay.
And should we talk to the lawyer too or no?
Talk to the lawyer.
Yeah, are we good with this, what we're doing now?
Don't need no lawyer.
I'm wondering, we all legit, so. I ain't trying to go nowhere.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about taking no votes or nothing.
Okay.
Virtually,
All
just
right, just
letting the viewing
general
audience. Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
do
I
this
mean, we
also
have-
with the public meeting, when we have a public meeting, at the planning commission meetings, that they can be in, the public can see it, but
Right.
only the participants will be able to avoid something when they actually hear.
Yeah, it still has to, participation still has to be in-house. If we're required to be in-house, I think the participation has to be in-house too, no?
The voice.
But see, that's, that's what I wanna bring up, not that I, you got really spoiled having to just run upstairs and just be on the call, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we're gonna cause this thing where everybody don't really wanna show up.
Right.
I really think that's gonna be a problem, if we are committed to be a part of a board that we said that we was working with, I think that we have a responsibility to meet in person. I think the
Actually
other
meet.
things, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the question on hand here, right?
No, because he's saying that even if I can't come to, I say I can't come to the meeting, right? I can't be here physically, right? But I can be here on Zoom,
But you can't vote.
but I can't vote,
Right.
right?
So,
So what I'm saying though, even with that being said, there's gonna be a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, a lot of board members, commissioners, people that just choose not to be here, when we give them that option, because it's just too easy to not be here.
I think,
If I'm making sense.
yes,
No, I
you
understand
are.
exactly what you're saying.
And I think perhaps the one direction that you could take is that you could look at the opportunity for a hybrid type of meeting to really be a venue for public participation.
That's basically what it should be for, just for the public.
Yeah, and that as far as the board members or the commissioners or the council people, they need to be in person for an in-person meeting because that's where the meeting is being held, especially in order to vote. That might be a question for the attorney as to how that
No,
works.
that's absolute already. That's no question about it. All I was saying
Okay,
was.
okay,
Yeah, that's what I was-
Because it sounded like you were saying something else. Okay,
No,
so I
say
understand.
you out the country, but you got some free time at that particular point. You said, man, I want to see what's going on. You able to get on Zoom and see it.
Just see it.
And just to see it, and that
But it's
way,
not giving me an excuse not to be here.
No, no, absolutely not. That expired December 31st.
That's what I'm thinking, like, okay, so we don't wanna start that back up where people,
Right.
okay.
So maybe all the comments and everything have to be in here, not on Zoom.
So that's what I was going to touch on too. When we were talking about that, I guess that's really on us when you talk about public participation. We're really waiting on the policy to come down from city council on that. Public participation, the person just has to have a way to communicate it. So whether they email it to the clerk, they send a letter here to City Hall, or if they're here in person. There's no mandate that says you have to allow, well, I'm sorry, let me retract from that. I don't know of a mandate that says that you have to allow the public to participate virtually.
Okay.
That is something that the attorney could investigate. All I was merely saying is just give a platform for the general public to watch and listen as we're in our meeting. If they're not here, here in
I
person.
got you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's understandable.
And to elaborate on your list of forms of communication, the public is always welcome to send or contact the planning department, any members of the planning department, and they're also available to contact members of the planning commission directly. It
Absolutely.
would be your requirement or your responsibility to share that communication with the rest of the planning commission, as it would be my responsibility to convey communications that I receive on projects from the general population or the citizens to the planning commission as well. But there's lots of opportunities that don't necessarily rely on Zoom for public participation. But in this age where we've got Zoom as a platform for people to engage virtually, I think it's the more people, the better that we can get involved in the civic process. I think you just generate better solutions all the way around.
Alrighty, so if we all good with that, we'll let the staff, planning staff talk with IT, come back to us, and just move forward with how we're gonna look at that. But it is something I just wanted to bring up to you all's attention because it was brought to mind. And I don't know what they're gonna do for the rest of the boards and commissions. That's gonna be on them, but at least because we're here in City Hall, we do have those options or capabilities. The last thing, I don't think Daryl was here at the time, and I don't think Tanya was here at the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Commissioner Ratliff resigned on January 24th, 2022. He sent that communication to myself, the city clerk, the mayor, and I can't remember if anybody from planning was on the email or not. Okay, so no. And I think we just kind of moved forward. We had some canceled meetings in there and due to lack of quorum and stuff like that. So I don't think at our last meeting or before that, it really got articulated. So I just wanted to make sure that I articulate that to you all tonight. We do have a vacancy, and that's kind of one of the reasons too why we're in jeopardy of a quorum at these meetings, because we have a vacancy. And then if we have like 3 or 4 requested absences, we don't have a quorum. So we talked earlier about sending out a formal communication to the entire body expressing the dire need for commissioners to be here if at all possible. I mean, because right now, as far as anybody else who's not here, I'm not sure. Well, Mac was the only one that called me yesterday with an excused absence. He called me last night. And technically, we need those by noon of Monday. That's why I sent that one email out, and you all let me know if you're out of town, you weren't going to be able to make it, whatever the case may be. And we were able to handle the business accordingly, so we didn't get to the meeting and be sitting here saying, oh man, let's call everybody and try and figure it out.
Right.
I try not to start that domino effect today, because the last time I sent that, I started getting all these emails back.
Yeah, we weren't gonna be, they weren't gonna be.
Yeah. And I was being hopeful and optimistic, but I guess I should have, so we could have all kind of been on the same page.
And I apologize for that. I did have an emergency this afternoon that kind of threw me off, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I forgot. For us old folks who don't have this best of memory, if I would have saw email a little earlier, I would kind of reminded myself.
No worries.
The email does help.
Do
Well,
you think a calendar invite would be helpful for you too?
Oh, absolutely, because then I would add it straight to my calendar. Yes.
Okay.
so one of the things that we discussed prior to the meeting starting was delivery of the agenda and the packet. And the decision was made, or the request was made of the planning department, that we send everything out directly to all of the planning commissioners, either the Thursday or Friday before the planning commission meeting. That way you will have the weekend to review documents and look at things and ask questions if you need to before the meeting, so on and so forth. But from moving forward, that will be the process, is to get the agendas and the packets out to the planning commissioners either on Thursday or Friday before the meetings.
That would be helpful, and then, like you said, a calendar invite would be helpful too.
Right.
Yeah, that would be greatly appreciated by us old folks.
Will do.
Other than that, I have nothing else. Commissioners, do you have anything else before we move into public participation? All right, hearing none. We are under miscellaneous and public participation. We only have one person in the audience at this time. Everybody else is gone. If there are any comments or questions that you'd like to ask at this time, please feel free to approach the podium.
Okay, you asked. I have several questions, but I'm not sure if it's you all's purview to answer them.
Could you state your name for the record, ma'am?
I'm sorry, my name is Sandra Watley, and I am a Inkster resident,
All righty.
okay?
For the minutes.
I was wondering about the hookah lounge. I called the ordinance today to find out if a policy for a hookah lounge is in place yet, because I know we don't have one. And it's difficult to regulate situations if you don't have any rules for them yet. So I was trying to find out if anyone here had any information on the process of it, or,
I had initially asked the planning department in a couple past meetings about that when it came up, because we didn't have anything on the books. I believe Mr. Gornflow and McKenna are working on it.
Correct.
Okay.
and you're working on and will that information be sent out to, I mean, once you establish it? Because the process is kind of long when you're doing ordinances, because there has to be a first and second reading and blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to look up and be surrounded by hookah lounges, and they're all free to do whatever they want to do. So that
Mr.
was,
Gornflow is going to expand on that.
okay.
So I'll just answer your questions real quick here. So several planning commission meetings ago, maybe 2 or 3, the planning commission had asked the planning staff to work on developing a draft hookah lounge or smoking lounges ordinance that was similar to some of the adjacent communities that Inkster is surrounded by. My intent is to have a draft of that language to the planning commission for the next planning commission meeting for them to review and take a look at. Once they come to a consensus on what that is, we'll have the public hearing. Then it'll be sent to the city council for a recommendation, with a recommendation to hopefully approve it. And then you're correct, we do have first and second reading for any new ordinances. But because the city council meets twice a month, that could be done on back-to-back meetings if the city council agenda allows for that. In the meantime, however, the hookah lounge is falling under the category of a special land use, so it requires deliberation on the part of the planning commission to ask any specific questions, talk about hours of operation, provide any special conditions that they deem fit and appropriate during the site plan and special land use review processes that we have on the books currently.
Okay, when you say smoking lounges, are you referring to what they attempted to pass in the marijuana ordinance about a place where you could go and smoke the marijuana? You're not including those in smoking lounges?
Okay, no.
Okay,
That's a separate item altogether, and that would be use under the marijuana ordinances.
right, but we didn't, I mean, it was
That's
denied.
it's totally separate. It's smoking lounge, it's hookah only,
Okay,
hookah and
that's what I'm
cigar.
trying to say, 'cause when you say smoking, people get confused. So,
Yeah,
that's-
so the facilities that you're talking about are something called designated consumption establishments.
Yeah, that's what it is, I remember that now. But I
and
was just gonna say, that's not part of the ordinance, that's
Not-
in place
it
right
is
now. So
correct.
I'm not sure how that works, where you all are concerned, when, you know, it's not something you could just do.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I had a couple of more, but I didn't bring a pen with me, so. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We don't have anybody else from the general public. And commissioners, you didn't have anything else that came up at the last minute, did you? Alrighty,
I'm sorry.
yes,
One other thing, you were talking about digitizing records. Do I have to come back up?
Yeah.
please.
I'm interested in, what we have is Laserfish. And we've been paying for it for years, but no one has used it. And what I understand, this is a great, tool to collate and digitize things. I understand you can make a FOIA request, and, this thing can go to all different departments, collect it, collate it, stamp it, email it, or whatever. So is that something you're looking into when you talk about digitizing things? Because I think our only problem is nobody knows how to work it.
So at this point, we are investigating a variety of digitizing solutions. Laserfish is one option that the city has been using in the past. It's not necessarily going to be the mechanism that we use moving forward. I know that there's been some issues in terms of accessing documents and things like that, but that's moving forward. We're providing the mayor and the people who make the decision as to which company or which service we choose to move forward with. We're providing them with several options to choose from to get the documents from the city in a digital format.
Okay, well, the only thing I'm concerned with is we've been paying, like I said, that for years. And if we're not going to use it for its intended use, then that money can be allocated to something else. Some other digitizing format or something like that.
And I'm very glad to hear you say that.
Okay. Maybe I should say something else.
No, I would just, no, I can't say anything
We'll
else.
talk.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay?
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing else, the floor is open for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Oh, no, do we gotta close the public meeting and then adjourn?
No, that's public
Oh, okay,
participation.
participation, all right. Motion to adjourn?
Support.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Davis and supported by Commissioner Daniels. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The time is 8:29 p.m. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.